Hi, I'm Peyton Luke, and welcome to First Liberty Live. Stuart Shepard was on the road recently at a gathering of national leaders who are experts in many different areas. We're sharing the interviews he collected as a special summer series called Leading the Way. Our guest today is the author of 3 New York Times bestsellers. Now Amity Shlaes is leading the way to a better understanding of how conservative policies positively impact Americans.
Amity, thank you for making time for us today. Appreciate your chatting with us.
Of course.
First question, why is religious liberty so important for America?
Well, liberty for America is important, including religious liberty, local liberty, liberty of the marketplace. I think that progressives don't understand that there's something else besides government. And faith and community do so much for us that progressives assume only government can do. It's sort of a kind of blind spot for progressives. They don't see that there's an area which Coolidge called things of the spirit, where government only impinges, only intrudes.
Now, you mentioned Calvin Coolidge, who, of course, was president about 100 years ago. If there was a Jeopardy category on Calvin Coolidge, I would never touch the buzzer. You would be cleaning the entire category, okay? You'd clear the whole thing. Part of what you're doing at this event is showing a documentary that you helped put together on Calvin Coolidge. You're interviewed in it.
Other nations wonder whether America's strength derives from our leaders. Some define a good leader as an active leader who makes the office serve the man. President Theodore Roosevelt was just such an active leader. Roosevelt called the presidency his own bully pulpit. But there is another kind of leader, uniquely American. That is a president who sees that America's strength derives from individuals. A president who sees his work as fostering conditions where American growth will know no bounds. A president who has the character both to lead and to stand back. George Washington was one such president. But another such president is almost forgotten. That president was Calvin Coolidge, who served 1.5 terms in the 1920s. Coolidge understood that modern, growing America had its roots in America's founding. To Coolidge, restrained government was not optional. To Coolidge, restrained government was imperative.
I want the people of America to be able to work less for the government and more for themselves. I want them to have the rewards of their own industry. This is the chief meaning of freedom.
Coolidge understood this well, and that's why Coolidge's beliefs and accomplishments matter so much today.
Tell me what people in 2023 need to know about that president.
If Calvin Coolidge were a stock, he'd be a buy. He's the most mispriced president in the marketplace of ideas. What was important? Well, he cut the debt, he cut taxes, he pulled back regulation, and he made America flourish through these policies. Policies of restraint, not punishment or strength or bullying. So he's a different model of president. I call him the great refrainer.
The people on the other side of these issues in economics, they say that everything you just said is impossible, that you can't do those things and have economic growth. Why do they actually work?
Well, they work because when you step back, when the government steps back, the private sector flourishes. Coolidge understood that. He said the chief business of the American people is business, but he also said the chief ideal of the American people is idealism. He understood that it boils down to the individual, and if the individual feels strong, he does a lot. He innovates, he builds a family, he builds a business, he leads a country. If the individual is infantilized by the state, we have a situation as now where we're all performing a little bit subpar because we resent the intrusion so much. Even those who support progressivism can't help but resent the intrusions upon their lives.
When I explain this to my son, the phrase that I always use is that liberal policies promise what they can't deliver. Conservative policies actually deliver what they promise. They actually produce the results that they say they will.
Well, in the 1920s is a good example. The 1920s weren't just a great Gatsby champagne bubble. They were a great decade when people got cars, when they got Saturday off for the first time, when they got a washing machine, when they got the ability to vote in the case of women. All this was due to respect for freedom. And the tax revenues didn't even go down too much or at all in some years when the government cut the rates, because there was that much more activity.
Yeah. If we were to implement those policies today, if you were queen of the world and you could just make this happen, what could we be doing right now in 2023?
Well, our conversation and our policy options are totally impoverished. Let me say that again. Sure. Our conversation and our policy options have become totally impoverished by our desire not to appear, supportive of plutocrats or whatever. But the true truth is, here's an example. If you cut taxes all over, that is rates, and you cut a plutocrat tax, the capital gains tax, down to 5% from where it is, you'd see very strong growth in the U.S. that would provide jobs that people wanted. The second thing I would do is make sure high schoolers got a better education. I'm not so sure we could do that anymore through our regular school system, but through outside incentives and projects, we can do that. One of the things we do at the Coolidge Foundation is we teach kids through debate, or they teach us through debate. High school debate is a very cheap extracurricular that allows kids to learn multiples sometimes of what they learn in school.
Yeah. I watched a little bit of the documentary, just the preview of it, and something that struck me was, I don't know that in the era we live now that's so visually driven, with television driven, social media, YouTube and all that Calvin Coolidge could get elected today. What do you think?
I think he absolutely could get elected. Unfortunately, and nobody thought Margaret Thatcher could get elected
True.
in England until England went through some hard times. Calvin might be elected after we had a somewhat higher interest rate than even the one we do have.
Yeah.
When the country realizes it can't afford everything forever, then it will turn to a leader who can budget and who understands the importance of budgeting and of restraint and the importance of growth.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to share before I let you go?
Well, I hope everyone goes to visit Calvin Coolidge in Vermont.
Very good. Amity Shlaes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you're enjoying our special summer series, look for more Leading the Way episodes on FirstLibertyLive.com. First Liberty Institute is a nonprofit legal organization that focuses exclusively on religious freedom cases. If that resonates with you, go to FirstLibertyLive.com and look for the big red Give button. First Liberty is fighting for what matters most.